Hello, friends. My name is David Clay, and I want to talk to you a minute about the Gospel of Thomas and saying number 4. I want to give you the correct mystical interpretation of saying number 4. Now, this is a fascinating saying because, of course, reading it sounds strange. I'm sure, like all the more, obscure-looking sayings from the Gospel of Thomas, they are kind of hard to interpret the first time around. But once you understand the mystical key to how to interpret them, they become very easy then, and they explain a great deal. One of the main themes that's in the Gospel of Thomas is expressed in this saying. I'll get to that in just a second, but let's read it. If you have a copy of the Gospel of Thomas, then go to saying number 4, and I'll read it with you. Jesus said, "The person old in days won't hesitate to ask a little child, 7 days old, about the place of life, and that person will live. For many of the first will be last, and will become a single one." Now that certainly sounds enigmatic, if anything does, I'm sure. But let's take it apart. Jesus said the person old in days won't hesitate to ask a little child, 7 days old, about the place of life. See, what this is emphasizing here is that we live now in the space-time continuum that we exist in the place that is not of life. We live in an illusory world. This is a fabricated world, a delusional world. Yeah, that's right. It's a delusional world of duality, where we have positive and negative, opposing forces, right and left, up and down, good and bad. Yeah, polarity it's called. And in the spirit world, that's the difference between the spirit world and this world. In the spirit world, nothing changes. There is no contrast between good and bad, between up and down. There's just absolute perfection. Everything is in a state of absolute perfection. And it's something that's a difficult concept for us to understand because we live in a world of duality and exist in a world of duality. We function in a world of duality. But the whole meaning behind the Gospel of Thomas and the building impetus of the sayings is to tell us to rise above the world of duality. Once we rise above the world of duality, we're headed back to the Garden of Eden. Now, in a later video, I'll talk about the Garden of Eden. And that's a fascinating story in itself, so you want to make sure you don't miss that one. You think the Gospel of Thomas doesn't mention or refer to the Garden of Eden. Oh, yes, it does. In many, many places, but not directly, indirectly to the effects of the Garden of Eden and the effect that it had on mankind from the beginning when we ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Anyway, the person old in days is getting ready to go to the place of life, to the real place of life, to the place of meaning, which is the spiritual world. This is not the place of life here where we are. I want to emphasize that again. I can't emphasize it enough. This is not the place of life. But the child, 7 days old, has just come out of the place of life into this world which is not the real world, but the illusory world. So the older guy, or the guy getting ready to go into the world, into the place of life, the younger child is coming out of the place of life. So he doesn't hesitate to ask the child about the place of life. And that person will live because he will ultimately, in the place of life, the spirit world, that's where he will really live, not here. Now, I don't discount the importance of this world. This world is important in that it gives our soul contrast and comparison to grow. But the place of real life is not here. It's in the spiritual world. That's one of the main messages behind the Gospel of Thomas. And each time you hear one of these things and you hear the interpretation of it, you raise just a little bit in consciousness yourself until the whole effect of the Gospel of Thomas is to lift you up high in consciousness, and it will. So keep tuning in, subscribe down below, and I'll give you the meaning of the rest of the sayings of the Gospel of Thomas too. So let's go on to the second part of this. For many of the first will be last, and will become a single one. Well, the many of the first will become last. In this world, there is first and there's last. And there's first, second, third, and so on like that. Contrast and comparison again. Polarity. We're talking about the first and the last. Many of the first will be last, and many of the last will actually be first, because it makes no difference when you move into the place of life where everybody becomes one. I don't mean you lose your individual identity, but we become one in consciousness, because that's ultimately what we are, is one in consciousness, the consciousness of God that pervades the entire universe. Every plant every blade of grass, every insect, every rock, every tree, every mountain, every molecule of the ocean, every drop of water in the ocean, every bit of space, of the emptiness of space. God's consciousness pervades all. Consciousness is the very fabric of the universe, that the universe is constructed from ultimately. So they both will become one in the end, the first and the last. It makes no difference. Now, this is a recurring theme in the Gospel of Thomas, so you want to make sure that you make note here, that because we're going to see it again and again and again and again, trying to drive the message home that the one is what's important, the one in consciousness. You'll hear it referred many times in the verses, and you might want to read other verses and see where that's mentioned, even before you see the videos, because you might interpret it yourself. Anyway, stay tuned. Come back. We'll see you later. Have a great day.